Hey, what's up, everybody? Cole McCoy over here at EFIS. Just wanted to bring some tips to you today to help you explode your sales. Maybe you're a new agent watching this, seeing this, needing some help, just needing a direction to go and some help. Here we go. Check this out. Maybe you're only writing a couple grand a week or not hitting your goals, and you really want to see that number rise. Check this out. We're here for you. All right, here we go. Tip number one. Take the word cheap out of your vocabulary. This is probably the worst thing you can say, is to use the word, we're getting you something cheaper. Does that work for your budget? Things like that. When we use the word cheap, you're giving your permission for the client to shop you around as soon as you leave. You said this is cheaper than what you have now, Miss Mary. Let's go ahead and get this taken care of. Well, as soon as you leave, guess what they're doing? They're calling the next guy. Hey, I just want to see if you can get me something cheaper. They're shopping it around. How many times have you had a client call you, say, hey, Cole, I found something cheaper? Why did they say that? Because you said that. Now, cheap doesn't always mean cheap. Cheap or better is what I'm meaning to say. Cheaper doesn't always mean better. What happens, well, almost every time I've been replaced because it's been cheaper, is an agent comes in and lies to them, says, I'm going to replace your $20,000 a whole life that you're paying $68 a month for, and you're going to get $20,000 here for $37 a month. How is that? You go over there and you find out that person sold them $10,000 a whole life with $10,000 of accidental and called it $20,000 worth of insurance. How does that work? Crazy. Happens all the time. Now, whenever I say take the word cheap out of your vocabulary, it does not mean that you can't use a price competitive company. People will, yes, 100% buy something because it costs them less money, but I don't want to use the word cheap. I want, that the client cannot think about that word ever. I want to bring more value. I want to get them more coverage for the same amount of money. I don't want them ever to think that my insurance is cheap. What happens if you buy something that's cheap? It breaks, brittle. It's not as good. I can drink a delicious Diet Coke, or I can drink the knockoff brand. Knockoff brand ain't so good. I'll drink Diet Coke all day long. That's what people think about this. Cheaper does not mean better. You can still be price competitive. You can still write a product that's not screwing people over. Don't hear me wrong on this, but get rid of that word cheap. Sell on value. Don't sell on price. What value did you bring to the table when you sat down with your client? You want the client to remember the experience. How did they feel after you left their house? What experience did you bring them? What value did you bring to the table? Did you add riders, accidental riders, grandchild riders, nursing home waiver of premium? Did you use things like Social Security billing? Did you talk about the value added benefits, dental, vision, and legal discounts? Do you have companies that do that? Has the company, is it reputable? Have they been around a while? Do they have a history of taking policies back after they wrote them? Or do they sell every 10 years? Or do they go out of business and now you don't really have, anybody to call if something happens? We're talking about value, not price, all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. This one might get me in trouble, guys. Might get me in trouble. Quote to a system, not what the client needs or thinks they need today. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say that you have a 50-year-old female that wants to be cremated. She's healthy, doesn't take any medications. How much coverage is she going to need? I don't know. You don't know. When is she going to die? I don't know. Well, to get everything covered today with the cremation and any additional final expenses is probably going to be $4 or $5 grand, maybe. That would definitely cover her today. Well, What happens 30 years from now, 35 years from now when she's still alive? And now it's going to cost her 10,000 to get everything done, or 15 or 20. We don't know. How much was a gallon of gas 50 years ago, or a loaf of bread, or a gallon of milk, or a carton of eggs? That the way our money inflates is crazy. You cannot sell her that 4 or 5. Now, if that's all she'll pay for, don't get me wrong, sell it. You got a sale, you got a client you can add on later. Don't mishear me here. But if you're just going after that 4 or 5,000, you're doing yourself, but more importantly, your client a disservice. Well, what if you have a 78-year-old male smoker? Well, sorry, dudes, we're more expensive. If you smoke, you're definitely paying more money. 78-year-olds typically are going to be a lot more expensive also. The three main things that cause rates to go up, assuming you're healthy. Well, this person is dead set on being buried, and they think they need $15,000, and they can't qualify for a fully underwritten policy. We got to get them a simplified issue whole life policy. Well, $15,000 may be way more than they want to pay. So when I quote them to a principal, to a system, using like I have here, 60, 80, 130, he may not have get as much coverage as he thinks, but I'm showing him parameters that cover him while also being somewhat within a realistic thing for him to pay. Now, there's some different tools that you can use. Did you know that instead of paying for a casket at the funeral home for $2 or $3 grand, they can go to Walmart or Costco or get something online, get it shipped overnight right to the funeral home. They have to take it. Did you know that instead of having the service at the funeral home, they could use their church or VFW and whatever, and they'll gladly facilitate. You still run out the chapel. They can show you how to save $6 grand right there. And this is not a cheap negotiating service with your funeral. If you come from that place, they're not negotiating the funeral. They're just calling around to see who's offering the cheapest thing. We're not talking about being cheap. We're talking about bringing value. So when I quote 60, 80, 130, I'm not underselling the people that are going to need my help down the road, but I'm not overselling something for $250 to a man that's making $1 grand a month. This is Social Security, and that's it. Selling 60, 80, 130, what that allows you to do, get a nice spread, and it becomes a litmus test. Some people are just going to pick the lowest option. They're just going to pick whatever the lowest number you show them. So what if that number is 25? Well, they're going to pick 25. If that number is 40, they're going to pick 40. Why not give them a pick 60? They're going to pick it no matter what. Obviously, they're not going to give you their banking information if it's not affordable. But if it really isn't affordable for them, you have room to talk them down. You're not going to do as much good for a client if you can't get them enough insurance. And I'm not saying don't write it. Of course, go and write that $15 or $20 or $30 policy. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're not quoting to the system and you're constantly getting those lower numbers, you're not really offering the best service to your client. Remember, we're bringing value. We're not cheap. We're bringing value. If they automatically just go and pick that $130 a month premium without even thinking about it, no big deal. Obviously, you're going to bet that person a little more because that was just a little too quick. But maybe, just maybe, they really want more insurance and they'll pay $150, $180, $250. We'll show them those numbers too. Using the 60, 80, 130 principle, make sure that you don't undersell yourself. Make sure that you don't oversell yourself, but it becomes a litmus test to have a place to go. So when I say it's not what the client needs today, we're selling something for the future. We don't know when that future is going to happen. We want to make sure it's enough. Now, the more premium you sell, you do make more money. You do. But you have to look to serve the client first and foremost. And if you're underselling them, constantly writing $25 apps, how much good are you doing? Tip number 3. Use your presentation as an opportunity to get at least 5 small closes, mini closes, tie downs, however you want to say it. Throughout your presentation, 5 times you want to have a small sale. What this does, it's going to proactively overcome objections, and it's going to move the needle just little by little, baby steps, to get from when you open the door and you're building rapport and they don't know who you are to when you're asking for the check. You don't want that gap with them to feel like this great, massive divide. You want them to just feel like it's another baby step. So how you do that is you use different points throughout your presentation as an opportunity to get a small close. For instance, the perfect example is I like to talk about the difference between an agent and a broker. I like to ask questions to make the client feel like they're a part of things. Instead of just telling them about something, we're interacting and I'm asking them, how does this thing work? Or have you heard of this or whatever? So an example of one small close or tie down. Now, Miss Mary, has anyone ever explained to you the difference between an agent and a broker before? Okay, great. Well, as you know, an agent represents one insurance company like blank or blank or blank. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here. Call me, I'll do it. I'll do it over the phone, but not in a public forum. But as you know, Miss Mary, there's not a one-size-fits-all company out there, right? Yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily bad companies, but there's just no one-size-fits-all policy out there. What I do, Miss Mary, is I'm called a broker. And what a broker does is I actually go and shop around between all the best companies here in Ohio, and I go and I fight for you to make sure that you're getting the best company available for you. Does that sound fair? She says, yes, that's one small close. She gave you permission to fight for her. She gave you permission to go shop around for insurance. Now, we haven't got to the point about banking information. That's just one of many small closes, but you move the needle from here to here, just a little bit, just a little bit. You're proactively overcoming objections when you're doing this. When you put these little statements, does that sound fair? I'm going to fight for you. I'm assuming we're going to do this. You get their buy-in. They say yes, or yeah, of course, or yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's a small sale. And by the time you get to closing, when you show them the numbers, what happens there, if they say no or they want to think about it or whatever, they're not interested, they have to contradict themselves 5 separate times because 5 times they told you they wanted you to go and do this thing. You're creating momentum for your presentation to do the right thing for the client. Now, we're not selling for the sake of selling. We're not doing things that aren't in the best interest of the client. So let's just assume that's where we're at here. When you use these types of items in your presentation, when you use these things as opportunities to get small closes, what you're doing is you're creating momentum to where you don't even have to be the best closer. You don't have to have the slickest rebuttals. You don't have to be able to fight with a client back and forth, and finally you wrestle them into signing an app. You do things this way, and when you get to the numbers, they're just picking one because you've already basically overcome everything. Use your presentation as an opportunity to get a bunch of small sales. I promise you this will make your life easier. If your upline is not teaching you this, we're going to give you some more information to get some more training. I'll train you. I'll show you how this works. I might be getting myself in trouble with this one. There's a reason that a specialist makes more than a primary care physician. Right in the middle there. Brokers are usually broker. I was one of them. I was one of those people. Wanted to have 50, 60, 70 contracts, try and have Medicare and final expense and life insurance also with annuities and IULs and long-term care and cancer plans and major medical, and it's exhausting. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that and being a broker. I don't want to, some of you are listening, it's like, what a jerk. I'm talking to you new agents. If you're trying to jump in and do all the things at once, you're going to be a jack of all trades and a master of none, and you're going to be broke. Now, over time, as you master a couple things and you add on, that just comes to work ethic. You're just adding things on and you're getting better at your craft to help more people. But in the beginning, you got to specialize a little bit and make some stinking money. That's the only way that this works. So my advice to you, Pick a couple go-to carriers that cover a lot of niches, cover certain things with underwriting, things that people that do Social Security billing, so they'll bill correctly for you. Companies that offer value. I'm not talking about the cheapest carriers. I'm never selling anything the cheapest, even if it is price competitive, right? And I'm running with that. I've become a master of those things, and I'm specializing. And before I start trying to branch out, I want to make sure all my bills are paid 3 months in advance, let's just say. Now let's try and add something on. Now let's try and add another carrier, or, talk about Medicare or whatever. But if you try to do everything all at once, it's just so hard to get good at anything. And when we're sitting down with our clients, they want to feel that we're an expert, not just that we know enough to be dangerous. So my advice to you, if you're out there struggling, look how many contracts you have. There's nothing wrong with having a bunch of options for your clients. If you're constantly busy and you're able to write all of them and maintain all of this, you're not the person I'm talking to. I can think of one guy right now who's an absolute beast, who's a bro, who does everything. He's better than me. You're better than me. I'm talking to you, new agent, or you struggling agent who's not making money. Are you trying to be a specialist, or are you trying to be a primary care physician? Primary care physician refers people to me, the specialist. And I'm coming in with precision and laser-like focus, and I'm going to help them with their need, and they're going to send me to their friends and family. I'm going to help them with their needs too. Chargebacks also don't hurt you. Here's the deal. People cancel, especially in final expense. These are low-income seniors. They're going to cancel. This happens. Now, if you're having more than 10 or 20%, you might want to look at changing something up or what have you. But if I have policies out with 20 different carriers in the same month and a couple fall off, well, that I have a chargeback here, chargeback here, chargeback there. What if I wrote 20 policies with one carrier and 3 fell off? I'm net positive 17 policies with that one carrier. On the other case, I got to pay this one and pay this one and pay this one out of my pocket. And then now I have persistency issues with that carrier. And now we're talking about, possible termination with carriers because of lack of good business. If you're only giving them a policy here or there with the bad people, the niche, they only, you're only getting this company for your COPD. Well, they're going to want some healthy people too. That's how this thing works. You can't expect them just to take all the unhealthy people. Their product's going to blow up. I'm telling you, if you can specialize just a little bit, watch your income grow. Now, this is not special or revolutionary or anything that is going to blow anybody's minds. But sometimes it just needs to be said. There's not really any secret sauce. You just need someone to go to work. You don't have to be an expert. Just go get in front of somebody. I'd rather have somebody that has all the products, or that doesn't have all the products under the sun, but is willing just to go get in front of 12 people and call me from the house. I'll help them close it over the phone, than someone who has all the knowledge in the world but doesn't go to work all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. Work ethic will trump knowledge in my book every day, because the people that work hard are going to go and get the knowledge. At the end of the day, we overcomplicate this thing, especially in final expense. The client is buying you. They're buying you. How do you react? Are you confident? Are you stepping into the situation to be an advocate? Do they feel an experience? How do they feel when you sell that policy? You don't have to have all the answers to know the ins and outs of every little tiny thing. You can get there over time if you're working hard. But if you want to go make $100,000 profit, just go get in front of people. The rest will take care of itself. I promise you. Promise you.